microphone and sang to the crowd while the artist painted. It was like a festival. There was dancing and laughing, and everyone was having a great time, especially June. She grinned as she swished her arms left and right and up and down over the canvas. The Painter-Palooza was working like a charm. Then June reached up and double ouch, whoo. Her face wrinkled in pain. What's wrong? Asked Iggy. I have to stop, said June. My wrists hurt. Rosie helped June take off the gloves. She looked at them sadly. The Painter-Palooza had worked, but it still didn't help June. The whole adventure was a flop. Rosie frowned, but June grinned. Then June chuckled and she laughed. Rosie was shocked. What's so funny? You have to quit the painting. Who's quitting? Asked June. Maybe I can't paint, but all of you can. But if we paint, you can't win the contest, they said. Oh, Rosie, June said softly, don't you see? I've already won. This is the most fun I've had in years. Rosie smiled. Iggy and Ada cheered, and the Riveters cheered too. Come on, everyone, let's finish the painting together. They all grabbed paintbrushes and pampas stalks and got painting. When they were done, they stood back and admired the canvas. Home, sweet home, said June. It's perfect. Do you remember the theme was home? Here she is painting with her Painter-Palooza. You see down the bottom? There are different tubes for different coloured paints. That's the end of chapter 20. Chapter 21. Suddenly, Boss slapped her hand on the arm of her wheelchair. The Riveters grew silent. Boss motioned for Mrs. Lou and the Riveters to gather around her. Rosie, Ada and Iggy stood by the canvas. What's going on? Ada asked. I don't know, said Rosie, but I think it's serious. The Riveters huddled together and they whispered to one another, and they took turns glancing at the kids. Here they are. They're huddled together whispering, and the kids are wondering what's going on. Finally, the huddle broke apart and Boss wheeled to the canvas. The Riveters stood silently behind her. Boss spoke in her clear, strong voice. I speak for all of us, including our dear Agnes, she said. Agnes Lou, Mrs. Lou, smiled and put her hand on Boss's shoulder. We are the Riveters, said Boss. We do our part. We always have and we always will. It's who we are. The woman smiled proudly. That means taking care of one another. That's what makes us family. June stepped forward. Rosie, Ada, and Iggy, she said, you did something really important when you made that contraption. You helped somebody that you didn't even know. That means you did your part. Yes, you did indeed, said Boss. And today we declare you are honorary Riveters. They've joined the group. Betty, Letty, and Hetty McAllister stepped forward. We further declare that our home is officially your home too. That includes all the singing and dancing you can handle. We can handle a lot of dancing, said Iggy, who loved to dance. Zowie, said Ada. Thank you, said Rosie. They cheered. 3 cheers for Iggy and Ada. 3 cheers for Rosie Revere. 3 cheers for the questionnaires. It says here on her notebook, home, a place where there is love. Chapter 22. That night, Rosie packed her engineer's stash under her bed like she did every night. She climbed under the covers and looked around her room. She loved her house. But what made it her home was Gizbo and her aunts and uncles, her friends and her neighbours. And now the Riveters. They were also her family. She thought about the Raucous Riveters and Mrs. Lou. They lived in many houses, but their home really was when they were all together. They were amazing women, and Rosie was proud to know them, and even prouder to be an honorary riveter. Rosie made a final note in her engineer's journal. She wished Gizmo good night. Tired but very happy, Rosie Revere drifted to sleep and dreamed the bold dreams of a great engineer. What does her note say? And here she is fast asleep with Gizmo. Oh, I can see down here, she's also got her Raucous Riveters headband to show that she's part of the team. I'm going to read you. So this author, Andrea Betty, has put in the back some extra little bits. She's done a poem, she's talked about valves, she's talked about the riveters. So I'm going to read you this poem, but you can always find this book and read all about valves and the riveters and little bits of extra information in the back of the novel. Ode to the Valve. What is a valve? What does it do? It's simply a gate that lets fluids go through, a tube or a hose or a pipe or a vein, and keeps them from flowing back up again. There are valves in your toilet. There's valves in your heart. Valves in your tires, and that's just a start. So poo-poo to those who say no need to gush. Instead say, hooray, hooray, next time that you flush. Because when you have just a normal tube, liquid can go forward, and it can flow backwards. But a valve stops it once it's gone through. It can't go back again. And that's very helpful in many situations. Imagine air goes into a tire, and then if it just came straight out again, that would be a problem. So there's a valve to stop it coming out. Well, I really hope you enjoyed that story. In the back it talks about things to think about. Think of all the things that you have done in your life. Can you imagine all you would do by the time you were as old as great-great-aunt Rose, Bernice, or Boss? You will have so many interesting stories to tell. Think about the older people in your life and in your town. Take time to ask them about their childhood and the things that they've done. Take time to find out what's made them laugh, any interesting stories they've had. Who knows, maybe one of them was Rosie the Riveter, or knew somebody who was. I really think it's nice you forget that old people were young like you once. I wonder if they did something naughty or got in trouble at school, or who their best friends were, what their passions were. I wonder if they have anything that they've learnt in life that they would like to teach you. It might be a lesson about being brave, or it might be a skill. I hope you've enjoyed this book. Let's hope Andrea Beatty writes more books. Bye. Thanks for sharing this with me.